Wasabi guys, Void here, come back at you with another top 10 video. This time we're going to be looking at the 10 best Selesnya cards in the Commander format. As always, we're going to start this list off here with the honorable mentions. We have Risk the Redeemed. Unfortunately, not good enough to make the list, but good enough to make it as an honorable mention. Has the benefit of being a 1-drop as a commander that is super efficient. However, his activated abilities are rather expensive, and the best one obviously being the 6-mana tap it. For each creature token you control, put a token into play that's a copy of that creature. If you have a huge token army, that is super relevant. Earlier on in the game though, with a 1-mana commander, you want to go aggro, and unfortunately there's only so many ways you can do that and be successful early in the game. You need to have the best possible start you can get, and even then, he's really a late game card. I mean, that's really when you want him, is in the late game. So the fact that he's 1 mana kind of is just overshadowed by the fact that what he does is a little bit too expensive. It's good, but I mean, going wide, you kind of want to do that earlier on if you want to go aggro. So the fact that he's really good late game as a 1-drop, that's a little underwhelming. Then we have the 3 commander options from Commander 2017. The 3 kitty cats here. If I had to say which one was the best, the most flexible, probably Merryweather-like Duelist. I think the whole combat, manipulation, forcing your opponents to just block with 1 creature whenever you attack with Miri, and when she's tapped, your opponents can't attack it with more than just 1 creature. I think that is super efficient and very good. I mean, I love commanders where they're both good on attack and defense, and she most certainly is that. I also like Nazan as a Voltron commander. I've said this in the past. I've done a deck tech of him before. He's pretty efficient as a Voltron commander, is able to search up his own equipment, so that's pretty cool. I think Arabu is just a victim of the whole tribal theme from Commander 2017. Not really being too good for cats overall. But when it comes to Selesnya, the color combination in this format is just stacked. I mean, there's a ton of good cards in Selesnya. Both Nazan and Miri might have made this list if it was not as good like the other colors I've done so far in the 2 color pairs in the guilds. I mean, so for now they're just honorable mentions. We have both Ajanis, the one Ajani from Journey to Nyx, who has the ability to give +1/+1 counters on a creature, and whose ult can give you 100 life. And then we have Ajani Unyielding. There is another Ajani I know from the Planeswalker deck, who really isn't that good, so I didn't mention him. The Unyielding, though, the minus is pretty good. That's the best part about him. Basically a Swords to Plowshares. I feel like they just don't really bring anything unique. I think they just bring more of the same to Selesnya, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. And it's why they're honorable mentions, but I just don't think they stand out enough as Planeswalkers in these colors. And then we have the last one, Dragon Lord Dromoka. Very good, basically a Grand Abolisher on a 7-mana flying dragon. Can't be countered, so there's a huge upside there, but really doesn't do enough. I feel like he's better in a dragon deck where you're worried about your dragons being countered, stuff like that. Removal spells. Not bad in Selesnya specific decks, but doesn't really stand out. I mean, you could just put a Grand Abolisher in a lot of those decks too and basically get the same exact value, so he's not really too unique. So now we move on to the actual list here. Number 10 is Casali Pride Mage. May seem a little small for the format, but believe it or not, puts in a lot of work in decks such as Derevi, Imperial Tactician, and Rafik of the Many. Very good decks when it comes to combat, and attacking alone with Rafik of the Many, when you get the Exalt trigger and the double strike off of his trigger, getting just +1/+1 off of this as well isn't that bad. But really though, the best part about him is the fact that you can pay 1 generic mana, sacrifice him, and destroy a target artifact or an enchantment. Artifact and enchantment removal is always going to be good in this format. He's also recurable in a lot of decks as well, so if you can recur him, you have a way to just keep the pressure on your opponents who are playing these artifacts and enchantments, make it a little bit more difficult on them, and just a very good card in decks like Derevi because you just want to go and be able to do a ton of different things in that deck already. Removal on a creature is pretty good. Number 9 is Carametric God of Harvest. Makes a very good commander option, believe it or not. Every time you cast a creature spell, you get to search your library for a forest card or a plains card. It's not a basic land, so you have the option of searching up a temple garden or any other land that shares 2 different basic land types. You have the versatility there. You don't just have to be stuck with basic lands. But besides that, you have the ability, let's say you play something like a Wood Elves, which already can get you a land on ETB. Getting the first land off the cast trigger and then getting the second one just off of playing a 3-mana creature is absolutely ridiculous. She's an indestructible enchantment creature, but she's an enchantment when you have devotion to green and white that's less than 7. So altogether, you're just fine with her being an indestructible enchantment that just sits on the field and gets you a ton of mana over the course of a game. Ideally, though, what you want to do with this deck, eventually, you're going to get a ton of mana more than your opponents, so you need some mana sinks, so keep that in mind. I don't know if green and white are necessarily the best colors for mana sinks, but there are a ton of artifacts that could work as well, so keep that in mind. You do need some stuff to work with a lot of mana, but just getting a ton of lands off of creature castings, that's amazing. Number 8 is Sylvan Reclamation. I absolutely love this card. It's basically a Return to Dust for 5 mana in Selesnya colors. However, it is much better because instead of just having to be forced to use this at sorcery speed to get the 2 exilings, you get to do this at instant speed. It doesn't have that limitation like Return to Dust. And you also get the basic land cycling, which is also pretty good. So at its very worst, you can just pay 2 mana, get a basic land if you don't have the mana or you're desperate. Very good card. I love exiling removal yet again. Dealing with artifacts and enchantments in this way is super good. There are so many decks that are capable of bringing them back, so something like a Casali Pride Mage is still good, but it just destroys it. This exiles it, so you don't really have to worry about it ever again. Number 7 is Tristana Celestia's Voice. One of the most popular commander options in these colors, and for a good reason. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to its toughness, which is super good. In these colors, you play a ton of creatures already, so gaining a huge life cushion over the course of a game is what you want. It helps you grind out games. In addition to that, though, you also get some synergies with tokens. You get the Populate activated ability on Tristana yourself, so you can tap her, pay the 3 mana, make a copy of any creature token you have. So you could use the big 10/10 Eldrazi token. You could make a copy of soldier tokens if you're absolutely desperate. I mean, you could make a copy of any creature token, which is also going to gain you some life when that token enters the battlefield. Very good. There's a lot of ways to synergize with this. You could synergize through life gain, and you could synergize through tokens. So that's why I love her, because you have those 2 different directions you can go in with her. She's rather versatile as a commander option. Number 6 is Privileged Position. Very good in a control-based deck playing green and white. Also good in stacks. You want to protect yourself. The cool thing about it, though, is that it basically gives all your permanents hexproof, aside from Privileged Position itself, which is the only downside, is that it doesn't protect itself, which is also, I mean, kind of good when you think about it, though, because your opponents have to double up on their removal. They have to spend a removal spell to get rid of this first, and then they have to spend whatever else to get rid of whatever they wanted to get rid of in the first place. So they're going to have to double up, sometimes even triple up if they have multiple different problems on your side of the field. Just a very good card. Hexproof Shroud is very strong in this format. That's why cards like Lightning Greaves are so good, but giving hexproof to all of your permanents, that's going to help you survive and stay in so many games. Number 5 is Sigarda, Host of Herons. She is one of my personal favorite angels. Once you get her out there, you don't really have to worry about sacrifice removal, which is one of the most oppressive forms of removal. It's what ruins so many Voltron decks. It's what makes it very difficult for them to get back into the game. So I like her as a Voltron commander. I know some people don't use her as that. They use her as one of the 99 quite often. However, I like her as a commander for the fact that you don't really need Lightning Greaves or Swiftfoot Boots with her, so you get to save those spots in your deck. She just makes a perfect commander. She's not too overcomplicated. You can go in multiple different directions with her deck, and you can't really go wrong, because having a flying hexproof that basically protects your permanents from being sacrificed is super powerful, because some of the best decks are stacks decks, and a lot of those decks want to force you to sacrifice your permanents. They want to force you to sacrifice your lands. When you basically tell them no, that's not happening, you're capable of staying in the game and matching up with a lot of decks in the format. Number 4 is Captain Tsai. Very good. She went up incredibly ever since they changed the ruling. Allowing planeswalkers to be considered legendaries was absolutely ridiculous. She's like a $40, $50 card right now. She just taps to search up any legendary card from your deck, and you get to put it to your hand. So she's a tutor on a stick. You can get whatever you want. You can get your legendary creatures, you can get legendary lands, you can get legendary enchantments, artifacts, and even, of course, planeswalkers now. So I shouldn't have to explain it too much why she's incredible. She makes incredible option as one of the 99 in a lot of Super Friends decks now for that reason, as well as making a pretty good option as a commander, because you can just fill your deck with so many good legendary creatures such as Sigarda, Host of Herons. But not just her, you can throw in a ton of other options as well. So yeah, she's very good, very popular now. Yeah, she probably wouldn't have made this list maybe a year ago before the change, but ever since the rule change, she's been seeing way more play. and it's well deserved. Very good card now. Number 3 is Aura Shards. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get to destroy a target artifact or an enchantment. It is a Mage, so you don't have to, which is good because eventually you would probably have to destroy Aura Shards. But the fact is, having versatile removal, having repeated removal in Commander is so oppressive, and it's guaranteed to just help you win. There's so many artifact decks in the format, there's so many enchantment decks in the format. Having removal for them is so important. This is repeatable, and it's a lot easier to take advantage of than something like a Casali Pride Mage. ETBs are ridiculous. We have Deadeye Navigator in the format. That's a ton of ETBs you can get. We have a lot of infinite combos that deal with getting a ton of ETBs as well. So there's a lot of situations where you practically just say, hey, my opponents can't have artifacts and enchantments, because that's basically what this card says. Incredible. Number 2 is Muraris Wake. Gives an anthem to all your creatures, little +1/+1. But even better, because it's basically a Caged Sun, Gauntlet of Power, Extra Planar Lens, all in an enchantment in Selesnya colors, which is kind of unique to these colors because it's a very good card in the format. 4-color, 5-color decks love playing it because it doesn't discriminate on the lands you get to double. It's all your lands, so even your colorless producing lands, even your off-color producing lands, whatever it is, you get to tap it and you get to add in extra mana of any mana that land could produce. So if you're going to tap down a dual land, you could tap it down for one of its 2 colors and you get the other color in addition. So it's not an overcomplicated card, but what it does is give you extra mana, gives you double mana. And that's incredible. The more mana you have, the more likely you are to win. And this is just a fantastic card in these colors. And then number 1 is Adamus Call, or at least I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm not entirely sure. But this card is fantastic for what it does. At instant speed, which is a big reason why it made this list, and especially at number 1. Instant speed, you get to tutor up a creature. If you do this at their end step when they're tapped out, you can get your big creature bomb, whatever you're going to use to win, your Craterhoof Behemoths, anything like that. Whatever you're going to use to lock down the game, you can search it up right there at instant speed for just 2 mana. That's incredible. We have another 2 mana tutor, Demonic Tutor. You might have heard of it. Very good card, one of the best cards in the whole game. Being able to search up any card is incredible. Yes, this is just a creature, but in these colors you can't really complain because that's at instant speed as well. So all around, you get the option of getting whatever creature card you want from your deck at instant speed for just 2 mana. There are so many decks that want a card like this. And when you're capable of getting to any of your creatures, whether it's for a combo, whether you want to get your combo piece, it's so important getting what you need in this format. And tutors just reign supreme in this format for that reason. So many decks can win just by getting 1 or 2 pieces together. Tutors are basically like playing an extra copy of that card that you want in your deck. So that's why I made this list at number 1. So anyway, guys, that was my top 10 list for the best Selesnya colored cards in the Commander format. Let me know what your favorite Selesnya colored cards are. Let me know if there was a card that didn't make this list that you were curious about. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful day. Void here, signing off.